In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a vintage look photograph using Photoshop. So up here on this side you can see the original photo, and this is the vintage look. I've done two different things. One, I've put a textured background on this and made it kind of fade out on the edges. This is to create the effect that perhaps it was a scratched negative, or the photograph has been around for a while and it's kind of worn and tattered on the edges. The second thing that I did was I used something called split toning. Split toning comes from the days when we used film and processed things in the darkroom. What you do in split toning is tint the lights and the darks in a photograph a different color than they are originally. So you can see in this image I have kind of nice rosy tones and some pretty kind of golden tones compared to this photo, which is normal colors. Let's look at one more example. So this skull is the normal photo and this is the vintage look. So in this case, again, it has the textured background, so it looks kind of tattered around the edges, a little bit scratched. And the split tone colors are kind of a golden tone and also maybe a kind of a bluish cast to this photo. So let's go ahead and start creating one of these. So go to File, and instead of choosing Open like you normally do, choose Open As, and navigate to a photo that you'd like to use for this project. So I'm going to click on this flower right here. So down here, it's originally a JPEG, but I'm going to open this menu and change it to Camera Raw. So this is in alphabetical order, so the C's are up here towards the top. Here's Camera Raw. And I will click Open. So I get a Camera Raw window. Over here on these options, I'm going to click Split Toning. So I have my highlights on the top, a balance slider, and my shadows on the bottom. So I'm going to take the hue and move it along the spectrum and look at my choices. And I actually like where it started in the beginning, this kind of rosy tone. My saturation slider I can move to make it a little bit brighter. Now I'm going to go down to the shadows and I'm going to affect the dark areas of the photo. So I will move the slider around until I see an option that I like, and I kind of like it here in this aqua blue, bluish section. I think it has a nice, pretty old-fashioned look, and I will make the saturation a little bit brighter, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to click Open Image down here at the bottom. So now my image is open in Photoshop with the changes that I made to it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is double-click to get rid of the padlock on the background layer, and click OK. Now I'm going to add my texture to this. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I chose this rock and concrete texture number 13. You can choose one that you like. They are in the folder on the P drive for this unit. So I'll open that. I'm going to take this tab and drag it down so that I can see both photos at the same time. With the Move tool selected, I'm going to click on this image and then click it and drag it. And I'm sure I want to convert the colors. OK. And I'm going to close this because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to make this the same size as the background. In order to do that, I need to show transform controls so that I get these little handles around the outside edges. Now sometimes we don't want the image to be distorted, so we hold down Shift to constrain it. But in this case, we really don't care if this texture gets distorted a little bit, so I'm not going to bother to hold down Shift. I'm just going to stretch this so that it's the same size as my image. When I'm finished, I will click the check mark. Alright, I'm going to take this concrete texture and put it underneath my flowers. I'm going to take the flowers and I'm going to make a copy of it by clicking it and dragging it down to this new layer button. Temporarily, I'm going to turn the eyeball off, and then I'm going to click the original. Now, here in my blending options, I'm going to pop this menu open, click on the first one that says dissolve. Now that this is highlighted blue, I can use my arrow keys on the keyboard and I can go through these one at a time. And there are lots and lots of interesting effects, so you choose one that you like the best. I'm going to go ahead and stick with overlay. I think that looks pretty interesting. So I want the texture to be on the edges of the photo, but I don't want it to be on this part of the photo where my image is. So in order to bring back this part, I'm going to use this copy that I made. So I'm going to turn that back on to temporarily hide the one that has the texture, and I'm going to create a clipping mask. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to do this click this add layer mask button. Oops, and I was on the wrong layer, so let me undo that. Control Z. And click the top layer and try that again. So click the layer mask button. And I'm going to get the paintbrush, go up here to the paintbrush menu, make sure that the hardness is set at 0%, and I'm going to choose a large brush, something like 300, and I'm going to click off up here in the title bar to get rid of that menu. The opacity, I'm going to set, for now, I'm going to set it to 50% and hit enter. So let's see here. I want my paintbrush to be larger, so I'm going to use my bracket keys, which are next to P on the keyboard. I'm going to use my right bracket to make this large. And I'm going to go ahead and start brushing, and I can see that nothing happened, and I know why. It's because I have white in my color chip down here, and I need to have black. So I'm just going to click this little arrow here to flip those colors, and now when I erase along the edges, it reveals the texture that was in the background. So I'm just going to kind of circle the image with the 50% brush, and then I'm going to change this to 20% because I want it to be gradually faded. So change it to 20% and hit enter. Then I'm going to go back through and erase a little bit more closer to the image. Touch it up a little bit, but I'm not going to erase anywhere on the actual image. If I get a little bit on the edges, that's okay. I think that looks artistic, but I'm not going to erase anywhere here in the middle section. So if we look over here at our layer mask, you can see the places where I have erased on this little thumbnail over here on the side. So that is the finished product. You can save this and then put a copy of it on your photo portfolio under the Photoshop tab. That's it for now.